What made you realize your workplace was worse than just toxic? Back many years ago, I worked at a construction site where all the workers were the type to catcall and harass any woman that passed by. But one day, as I worked the night shift, I noticed someone who stood out a lot. It was a 10-year-old boy working the night shift. He was extremely skinny, his hands were covered in dirt, and there was this faraway look in his eye. As soon as he saw me walking over, he cowered in fear, like he wasn't sure what I was going to do next. So I made sure to keep my distance as I spoke in a soft voice. "Hey, where are your parents?" "Mommy said not to answer any questions," he immediately blurted out, with tears streaming down his face. I nodded slowly and took a dramatic deep breath, as if inviting him to take one with me. He did, and afterwards I could see his body releasing some of his very built-up tension. I reassured him that I could keep a secret, and I even pinky promised that I wouldn't tell anyone. Mommy says I'm a big boy now, and big boys have to earn their place in the family. I maintained my poker face and asked how long he would be here for. Mommy says I only have to work 4 nights a week because I've been a good boy in school. My heart broke as I watched a sense of pride enter his eyes. I wanted to pick him up and bring him back to my place to show him what a real home looked like, but I couldn't, not yet. So I just let him keep working while I quietly walked over to my boss. "What the F is a kid doing here?" I asked, waiting to hear his side of the story. "Hey man, that kid's tiny hands can reach those tight spaces the rest of us can't. And I don't care if you're Sophie Rain or Mike Tyson. If someone wants to work for $2 an hour, then the job is theirs." And I guess my boss noticed my anger, because he immediately threatened to fire me if I told anyone about it. Well, I was living paycheck to paycheck, and if I got fired, I would be on the verge of homelessness. But there was no way I could abandon a kid like that. So I decided to play the long game. For a while, I would bring in extra meals for him, as well as cash, so he could lie to his mom that he had worked more hours than he actually did. And I knew if he was smart enough to be a 10-year-old construction worker, then he was smart enough to keep that secret, and he did. But over the next few weeks, something shifted. He was moving a lot slower. He had developed these huge craters under his eyes, and one night, I saw his arms were covered in bruises, ones that couldn't have come from the job. That was my breaking point. I knew I had to do something. So on our break, when no one was listening, I asked if he wanted to come home with me. I expected some sort of apprehension, or at least for him to pause and think about it, but no. His face immediately lit up with a joy that I'd never seen before. "Yes!" He yelled so loudly that everyone even turned their heads to see what was going on. As soon as the shift was over, I practically threw him into my car and drove him home. Looking back, I probably should have called CPS or something, but I couldn't help myself, because between my boss, his mom, and the CPS horror stories, the last thing I wanted to do was trust a stranger with his life. As soon as I showed him his bed in the guest room, he ran in and fell asleep. He must have slept for almost 20 hours before waking up again. I jokingly asked if he enjoyed his hibernation, and his big blue eyes filled with tears. At home, if I don't fall asleep within 2 minutes, then my mom says I'm not tired enough, and I'm just being lazy, so I only get to sleep once every 3 days. I wanted to go feral right there and then, but I gathered myself and asked if he wanted anything to eat. When I gave him a plate of cooked chicken nuggets, he ate it so fast that he threw up. It was clear that something was very, very wrong. For the next few days, me and Mikey didn't speak much, because he was always either gorging on some food or fast asleep. My phone was being spammed with notifications from my boss and unknown numbers, but I didn't care, because homeless or not, I knew there was no way I could ever go back to that job. So once he had recalibrated a little, I asked him if there was any family he could stay with. "Can you take me to my daddy?" His voice was sheepish. I was hesitant because his mom seemed evil, but I trusted my judge of character and decided I would help to suss him out. Mikey gave me the address, and as soon as I rang the doorbell, his dad answered. He looked surprised when he saw me, but when he glanced over at Mikey, a smile lit up his face. He invited me inside. When Mikey went to sleep, I told him everything. The construction job, the bruises, the starvation. He buried his face in his hands. The court didn't believe me when I told them his mom was dangerous for Mikey. Maybe now they finally will. I stared down at the ground, and he asked if I wanted to work for him since I was out of a job. I took the offer, and it should have been our and everybody clapped moment, but it wasn't. Because the next morning, I woke up to a knock on my door. It was my ex-boss. I opened it just wanting to get things over with. But as soon as I did, a woman I didn't recognize barged in and slapped me. "Where's my son?" she shrieked. Full story on channel, link below.